Hello, busy dads and busy people everywhere. Welcome to episode 12 of the Busy Dad podcast. This is the show where I have the privilege of sitting down with fellow burpee practitioners and hearing their stories. And this week, I am joined by my dear friend, Jim. Jim, welcome to the show.
Hi, Max. Thank you very much.
Absolutely, man. It's great to have you here. I was just digging up the notes that I have from our coaching relationship, and um, we had our first meeting, Jim, on February 22nd. So we are deep into this game together. It's been a hell of a journey, and it's been a real joy. We're going to share with all of you some of the lessons that have come up for us in the context of working together. But before we do that, I'd love you to introduce yourselves to our listeners. If you could tell them a little bit about who you are, what you do, but also if you could give them a sense of your relationship with training, your training history up to the point that you became a practitioner of the Busy Dad program.
Yeah, sure. So, as Max said, my name is Jim. I'm a helicopter pilot in the Royal Air Force. My main job at the moment is actually aerial firefighting in Cyprus, which is a magnificent place to live, and it's a very satisfying job to do. Um, I'm married with a baby daughter, so I am now a busy dad. I wasn't when I started this program, but I am now an official busy dad. Um, and I have many hobbies that I don't have that much time to do these days. I play a lot of sport, and in terms of my training background, I must confess, growing up, I was pretty lazy. I played a lot of sport, but I didn't do anything outside of that. And it wasn't until I was in my last year at university that I started taking getting fitter more seriously. And for a long time, that involved basically just running and a few press ups. Um, Mainly because I had weight to lose, which I did quite successfully through the running. But I didn't really know much more about how you go about doing exercise other than going for a run to lose a bit of weight. Once I'd done that, I got very interested in press ups, and for a long time, press ups were my main form of exercise outside of sport. That was what I did to sort of keep myself relatively trim and feeling strong. And I took press ups a bit too seriously, I think. There were periods where I was doing ridiculous numbers of press ups, and it took me a long time to realize that I was sure I was building endurance, but I think I was also actually it was counterproductive. I was doing sort of 5 sets of 50, and it took me a long time to realize that at that point I'm not making any progress. I then stripped it right back. I started doing much harder variations, lower numbers, harder variations, using a weighted vest and all the rest of it. So press ups were a big part of my life for a long time, and then pull ups. I think I've always liked body weight.
Mm.
I've always liked body weight. I've always liked things that required very little in the way of equipment, things that you don't need to go anywhere to do. As long as you've got a bit of floor or a pull up bar, you can do it. Or in the case of running, put on a pair of trainers and away you go. So simple exercises that are effective have always appealed to me.
Mm.
Um, but what I was missing, I don't particularly enjoy running. What I was definitely missing with the press ups and the pull ups, I managed to master muscle ups at one point, and then probably damaged my shoulder. So I haven't done a muscle up since. um, what was I saying? The thing that was missing, I don't particularly enjoy running. The thing that was missing was the cardio element from my training. And when I first came across the burpee I'd always known about burpees, but when I first came across the burpee as a concept that you could really use to train, um, the whole thing appealed to me. The cardio aspect, the strength aspect, the fact that it's body weight, the fact that you don't need anything other than the floor. You don't even need a pair of trainers. You
Yep.
just need a bit of floor, and away you go. So everything about it appealed to me. And on top of that, I like the efficiency of 20 minutes at a time, 80 minutes in a week. Anyone can find that. Anyone can find that, and it it with being so efficient, it shouldn't feel like a chore. Am I going too far, Max? Was that too? Was this too much for a
No,
simple question? Tell me a little bit about yourself and your background.
no, it was perfect, Jim. But before we talk about burpee training, just one or two things I wanted to pick up on. First, just to say that I think spiritually we are brothers in that I also just instinctively incline towards simple, Spartan, difficult movements that anybody can do, and that are also time tested. You know that people have been doing for hundreds of years, and so I've always loved military style training for the fact that it's just so pared back and so simple and so hard. Um, a kind of instinctive um, impatience with stuff that seems faddy, stuff that involves
Mhm.
silly machinery or equipment. It just turns me off. And so I I just wanted to register feeling like that we're kindred spirits there, and that anybody else who feels
Absolutely.
that way should try out burpee training because it seems to me the most simple, pared back,
Mhm.
um, essential form of training. But another thing I just wanted to say is I didn't know that you had so many push-ups or press-ups, as we Brits call them, in your training history, and that does explain a lot. It explains why, you know, you were able to cross the line into level two very early in your training practice, which for many of us takes years. Um, Something I say to people coming to the Busy Dad program who don't have that training background, because I too, I came to burpee training with just tens of thousands of press ups behind me. And so it just
Mhm.
meant that there was a learning curve with the SEALs, but it was pretty soon that I was deep into level two and beyond. For people who don't have that training background, there's a real value in starting a supplemental push-up practice that you have in addition to your burpee training practice. I've put up videos on the channel before about very slow and deliberate push-ups, 10 per day to really ingrain the motion, but you can also grease the groove and do bigger sets throughout the course of your day. I think there's real value in that, real carryover. Anyway, enough about that. Tell us then, Jim, about so you're attracted to burpee training as a modality, the Busy Dad program with the 80-minute time commitment, it speaks to you. Tell us about your journey with the program.
At the beginning of this year, I was looking for something that burpees ticked all the boxes actually, but I was looking for something that was slightly different to what I'd already done, but followed the same principles of being simple, hard, time efficient, no equipment, all the rest of it. And I came across, I probably came across one of your videos. I can't remember whether I came across yours first or whether I came to yours via somebody else's, but I saw your video, and in it you said visit the website to have a look, because the thing that was missing, I knew I wanted to do some burpees. The thing that was missing was like most things, how do you then apply it to your training? How many do you do? How often do you do them? So coming across your website was invaluable, and I decided one day to start. And I did. I checked in, and I can't remember exactly what my numbers were, um, but they were somewhere maybe 1B, something like that. So it's not particularly great. And the thing that was missing for me was there was the cardio, and it still is. It still is the probably because I've come from the push-ups. The strength doesn't seem to be the issue so much, but but the cardio definitely is. Towards the end of most sessions, I'm really gasping for breath. Um, so yeah, so I started doing it, and then it wasn't long after that that you said that you were going to you were looking to do some mentoring coaching, and one of the things that I really need is, although I'm relatively disciplined with exercise, it doesn't take much for me to start missing a few sessions, and what I really wanted was accountability, and that was one of the things that you said that you could offer. So I thought, you know what? Why not? Why not? Um, and well, the rest, as they say, is history. I'm still here. I'm still here now, and I'm still enjoying it.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's been quite a journey. There are, as I've continued in this coaching practice, I've got to know so many of you, and there are really different training personalities. Some people, they're really content to um, inch forward, consolidate, maybe consolidate again, wait until the workout is really comfortable, and then inch forward again and move forward in that fashion, which is absolutely valid as an approach to take, and it can work really well. There are others who are very, very impatient to just blaze a trail through the program. And
Mhm.
I remember it early. You were very much in the latter camp. I would quite often set you a rep target, and you'd come back 10 reps over the rep target, kind of wagging your tail between sessions, very enthusiastic. Um, and I was still learning how to mentor, and I think that um, I wanted to go with that energy. And rather than pulling you back, I think what happened was I started to push you too often, and we were going for PRs week in, week out, increasingly ambitious PRs. We hit a plateau, we hit it again, we hit it again. We kept trying to burn past it. And at a certain point, um, you started to burn out um, to the point that I very nearly lost you. Can you tell people about what happened?
Yeah, I mean, as Max has said, I when we first started, I was making really for me gains that I was really pleased with. Yeah, yeah, I was putting 10 reps on in a week, and it was feeling really good, and I was really enjoying it. But those were the easy gains at the beginning. Those were the gains that you just get by becoming more familiar with the movement. Just by doing it, those reps come quite easily at the beginning. Um, and I was enjoying every minute of it. As Max said, I was trying to exceed the targets where I felt it was possible. Um, and I realized that the gains weren't going to keep coming in that fashion. However, although I hadn't really acknowledged that. I'd said it. I'd said it on our meeting. I said I know the easy gains are gone now, but I hadn't really acknowledged that. So every time I came on, I wanted a higher PR to push for, and Max encouraged that. And then at some point, I started not only just not being able to hit what I had the previous week, I started going backwards, and I think that was because I was going out of the gate too hard early on, burning myself out, and then getting really disheartened halfway through the session, 2/3 of the way, three quarters of the way through the session, when I realized I was never going to get to where I needed to be. And this was happening week in and week out. And I was getting more and more frustrated, which meant that I think I was actually pushing myself harder at the beginning
Mm.
of each workout, which was counterproductive because it meant that when I got 2/3 of the way through, I'd already spent myself at the beginning. And it was really demoralizing. There was a period of several weeks where, and my wife will laugh at me, but it was only me saying to my wife, I don't want to do. I haven't done my session today, and I don't want to do it. And her turning around and saying, James, it's 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes. Just do it. Just get it done. She was using words that I used at the beginning when I was really enthusiastic, and I was saying, "Oh, it's great. It's just 20 minutes. It's over and done with in 20 minutes, and it's a good workout." And she used those words. She was like, "James, it's 20 minutes. Just get down and do it." And I think if she hadn't said that, and if it hadn't been for the fact that I'd have to meet with you on a Thursday and explain myself, I would have stopped. I absolutely would have stopped. But the dual accountability there of having to face you, Max, and say, yes, I did do it. I didn't want to do it, but I did do it. And my wife meant that I did keep going even when I had zero motivation to keep going. And I don't know whether it was apparent to you that my enthusiasm was waning over a few weeks, but eventually I turned around to you and said, I'm finding this really, really hard and demoralizing. And I was slightly worried that I was going to turn around and say, I think, I think, I think I'm done. I'm very glad I didn't say that. I'm very glad I didn't say that. And in fact, it was when you turned around to me and said, and it wasn't you weren't pushing. You just said to me that you've made a commitment and think of it like a marriage. You can't just bail on a marriage. You've made a commitment. You persevere. You stick with it, and that did change my my sort of mentality. I went away and I thought about that, and I thought, you know what, it is. I enjoyed it up until a certain point. I enjoyed it very much up until a certain point, and a bit like a marriage, I have the rest of my life to make it work. I don't need to be hitting a PR this week, next week, the week after, every single week until I hit level 3, level 4. I don't need to do that. If I'm putting the work in, it doesn't matter if it takes me the rest of this year to get to wherever I might get to. Um, Providing I'm doing the exercise and I'm enjoying it, the gains will come. And it might only be a couple of reps. It might be a couple of reps a week. It might be a couple of reps a fortnight. But the gains will come, and they don't need to be the big ones. And since that point, we pared the training back a bit to a point where I wasn't dreading the workout. In fact, I started looking forward to them again, like I had done originally. I'd get up in the morning, I think it's a burpee day. I'm really looking forward to this. And I got back to that point by bringing the numbers down, and now I'm there again. I wake up this morning. I woke up and I thought, yeah, it's a burpee day. I'm really looking forward to it, and I really enjoyed it. So
I'm so pleased to hear you tell that story back. I do think what I like about the analogy with the marriage is, in a marriage, um, if you're approaching the marriage in the right spirit, you've taken off the table the possibility of walking away. And now that means you're stuck together. And so then you could make each other miserable for the rest of your lives, or you could find a way of making each other happy. But there's no escape hatch. So you may as well try and make it work, given
yeah,
that you're stuck with it. And likewise with the burpee training practice, if you marry the movement, um, then you've got to find a way of making your practice work for you, because you're going to be doing it for the rest of your life. So you may as well make it work. And so that creates a pressure to build the proper relationship with the movement that wouldn't be there if you had it in your mind that, oh, maybe I'll do something else after 3 months. And I cannot tell you how often I see this happen, where people get cold feet, they get bored, they get curious about what's on the, grass is always greener. I think I'll start doing a minimal paired back kettlebell practice. I think I'm going to do Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. And,
yeah, yeah.
we've seen it happen 100 times. Um, but if you stay consistent, and if you're married to the movement, you have to build up a good relationship with it. And so what we did was we pulled Jim right back. I think we started out with 160. And this is, I think, Jim, like the sticking point for you was in the 220 range. So this was a very big pullback. And we also changed our approach so that Jim would no longer be allowed to do those counterproductive early sprints that would take him out later in the workout. We started getting strict about rep pacing and just very, very carefully moving through 40 reps every 5 minutes, where what we did was we went at a pacing of 1 rep every 6 seconds, worked for 4 minutes, rested for 1 minute. And then over the course of weeks, that 1 minute at the end of each block, we started filling it. First, we filled it with 2 extra reps, then 4, until we got to the point that the entirety of what we called the gap was filled, and it was 200. And now, I mean, we just had a coaching session before this, and it sounds like 200 now feels for you like it never did before, a kind of backup workout.
The first time I hit 200, I thought I was going to die. I thought I was going to die. I'd been working up to it for a few weeks. I'd even there's a couple of guys. They're into CrossFit actually. They are pretty fit. I don't know much about CrossFit. They're pretty fit. And a couple of guys said, "Yeah, I'll tell you what, we'll do it with you to try and help you hit the 200." And they did. And I didn't hit the 200. I hit 190, and I was really disappointed. Anyway, the next week I then hit the 200, and I genuinely, the last 5 minutes were pure agony. I had to really force myself to stay in the game, knowing that I only had 5 minutes to go and I was almost there. And it was an incredible feeling when I hit it. And then today, doing the 200 felt really comfortable throughout. The difference between the gym 5 months ago, 4 months ago, whenever it was, and the gym today doing the 200 is incredible, absolutely incredible. Like today felt really comfortable all the way through. Today is still a workout, obviously, but there was no gasping for breath. There was no thinking, Christ, I just want this finished. As you get into those last few bits, it was really comfortable. And the other thing is, because the pace is slower. And this is going to sound strange, but you actually have time to enjoy the movement, because it is enjoyable. It is enjoyable feeling strong and doing a burpee. It is a good feeling.
So wonderful.
So yes.
Yep, yep. No, and I had I had it in the back of my mind that okay, he seems like he's doing great now, but we're 50 reps away from the old PR territory. What's going to happen later? Are we going to get sticking points early? But we're now, 210 on the docket for next week. We're fast approaching the old numbers, and you just seem very relaxed, very comfortable in the practice, like you're enjoying yourself. Um, it's such a relief for me to see that you've come out the other side of that dark night of the soul. And inspiring. I think there will be people listening to this who are starting to get into that place that you described, in that vicious cycle of getting demoralized, getting frustrated, going into the workout angry, going hard at the beginning, losing track, realizing 15 minutes in, oh man, it slipped through my fingers, angry, coming out with worse numbers, numbers go down, the workouts start to be something they dread. And it's only a matter of time when you're there until you say, I don't want to do this anymore. And so I
Mm.
think you're offering people a blueprint for getting out of that funk and finding a way forward. Um, which is really, really excellent to share because, a lot of people, they get to 3 months and then it's done. Whereas we're 6, 7 months into our work together now. And it seems to me that you're just really just getting started. Anything,
I
any,
Yeah.
any, any piece of advice, Jim, that you want to share with people who are listening?
Um, I think. I mean, there's one thing that you've said time and time again, um, on your channel, is that even if you don't feel like doing it, even if you're feeling terrible, just get down and do it. Just get down and do it. Even if your goal is, you revise it to be really modest, because you might surprise yourself. The number of times I've thought, oh, I'm not feeling great today, and then 5 minutes in, I'm like, actually, no, I'm feeling pretty good. I'm enjoying this. And then when you're finished, you will feel so much better. I'm sure there's probably a dopamine hit of some description. I don't know. But there is something so satisfying about putting a session in, especially when you didn't feel like it beforehand. So that's one bit of advice. Just do it. And I'll refer back to my earlier. It's 20 minutes. It's 20 minutes. It's just do it. And then the second bit of advice is, yeah, try not to get yourself into a position where you're starting to dread your workouts, because it is a vicious cycle. If you start to see that approaching, think about how you can put yourself back in a position where you're enjoying it. Because if something becomes such a chore, you won't keep doing it. People simply will not keep doing it. If their workout becomes a chore and something they don't want to do and something they see as, oh God, I'm going to have to do it, I don't want to, that it's going to stop at some point. So try and avoid recognize it and avoid putting yourself in that situation.
Excellent.
That's it. Like,
No, that's really, really helpful. Um, Jim, we're at time. It's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. Let's get you over the line to level 3. I think it's really coming for us. And once you've cleared that line, let's get you back on the podcast to share some more wisdom.
that sounds good. Well, thank you very much for having me, Max.
Absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for taking the time. And if you enjoyed this, my friends, please check out the Busy Dad podcast playlist for many other wonderful conversations, very much like this one. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you again next week.